when the Canadian Pacific let passengers off of the platform, those passenger trains would leave to run through a 1.5 kilometer long tunnel that would go from the rail yards along the station and look something like this, and run all the way over to False Creek for servicing, repairs, and being washed for the next departure later that day. And this tunnel would have you end up on the west side or the east side of False Creek, but the west side is essentially today's Yaletown Roundhouse. And when the final Canadian Pacific passenger train left these yards in 1978, later that year the city announced plans to remove all the industry and rail yards for Expo 86. Now, it's actually crazy to compare Yaletown in 1978 to today in 2025, how what was once an entire industrial area is almost completely unrecognizable with the skyline of apartments it holds today. But one of the two buildings that still remain is the Yaletown Roundhouse. And today that roundhouse has been transformed into a free public museum that features the same check-in counter that the Canadian used out of Waterfront Station, as well as steam locomotive 374, which was the locomotive to pull the first passenger train across Canada from Montreal in 1886. And although she would be considered a small locomotive by most standards, I'm a pretty big man, and I like tiny compared to this mammoth of a machine. If I'm being honest, I really wish that Canada did a better job to preserve and bring some of our old steam locomotives back to life like they've done doing such a great job down in the United States, because I've seen many sleeping steamers across Canada. I've ridden a couple and made videos on them so far this year, but what a shame it is that most of these are just museum pieces and not doing what they were built to do, pulling passengers to a new adventure or a new experience. But at least here at Yaletown, the museum is completely free and super easy to get here, only 2 SkyTrain stops down the line from Waterfront Station, and that is the Canada Line too, if you're riding. Remember that tunnel that I mentioned? Well, the west end came out at Yaletown, but the east end came out here in False Creek. And that is where my final stop of the day is, specifically here at the False Creek Marina. So it is a beautiful day here in False Creek. So this is the home of the Dragon Boat BC team. Dragon Boating was born out of Expo 86 with all the old Canadian Pacific lands, where all the freight, all the passengers we get service, we got cleaned out of the city, and with clean water came the Dragon Boating, and yours truly is gonna get put to work. This is the boat. Everything will be perfect except for that one. And then that's my partner, Kevin, right there. Best looking guy on the boat. Boy, oh boy, was I in for a workout like I have never experienced in my life. This morning was a bit of a bold adventure for me. I mean, I've really enjoyed finding new ways to get into the water in this series, but dragon boating is something special. This is a full-on competitive dragon boat practice, and this team was nice enough to allow me to join them for a 90-minute practice, and like I mentioned earlier, it is a seriously killer workout. Starting with a few laps around False Creek and turning back at the Burrard Bridge. And believe it or not, once upon a time there was actually a railway trestle in the middle of all of this, connecting Yaletown to Granville Island, which is actually the second most popular tourist attraction in all of Canada. But getting on the water on a beautiful morning like this, in one of the best cities in Canada, all made possible by the urbanization and the evolution of the rail yards that once lived here and connected all the way back to Waterfront Station. And if you want to try dragon boating, I'll put a link in the video description to learn more. It's a seriously cool thing to do if you got a couple hours in town. That's dragon boating. 40 years ago, none of this existed. This was all railway, industrial land, freight, passenger, but this is why Waterfront Station is one of the best kept secrets in Vancouver, because of this.